All right, so welcome again to our Suburban Advocacy call. So why don't we, it's a smaller group today, so why don't we just kick it off with quick introductions. We can do the popcorn style. So your name, where you are, where you live, and if you have any affiliations with any groups. I'll start. My name is Maggie Shawinski from the Active Transportation Alliance, and I live in Chicago. And I will pass it to Brad.
Hey Maggie, I'm Brad Olson. I'm on the Park Ridge Sustainability Commission, which bike is part of our purview of sustainability, and we've been working with Active Trans and others of you and people around the area trying to get some traction on improved bike infrastructure in our town and doing some community bike rides and all sorts of good stuff. So pleasure to be here with everybody today. And Maggie, how's the baby?
Oh, she's great. She's so our little girl Beatrice, she just turned 1 a couple weeks ago, so which is exciting. We had a little party for her and she loved her cake. It was her first time trying cake, and it's all over. And we, for some reason, we chose a green cake, so she's just like green. But yeah, it was, she's good, but she's wanting to walk. So that's her first mode of transportation, but she's not quite there, but yeah, she's good. But thanks for asking.
Enjoy every minute. My daughter's in college now. It goes very fast.
Yeah, I know. That's what I keep hearing. It's like, I mean, a year went pretty fast, so I'm starting to understand. All right.
And let me hand it off to Elizabeth then. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Brad. I'm Elizabeth Adamchuk. I used to be in the city for many years. I am now in the south suburbs in Oak Forest. I am still connected very much to Active Trans and their gosh, why am I blanking on this? The number you can call, the support crash support line. Also involved with Ride of Silence Chicago and Ride Illinois' Safely program and their education initiatives. So with that, I will hand it off to Ben Harris.
So my name is Ben, and my claim to fame is, or was, that I used to be a student of Elizabeth's. So kudos. I'm with the Skokie Bike Network, do some work with Ride Illinois and the Illinois Medical District, furthering the, pushing the needle for more bicycling. And I will hand it over to Helen.
Hi, I'm with the City of Joliet in the planning division here. I live in Joliet. We're in Will County, so I'm not involved in any active transportation projects, but it's a personal and professional interest, so that's why I'm here. And I guess Alan hasn't gone yet.
Hi, I'm Alan Leishman. I live in Villa Park in the west suburbs, and I'm on the bike pedestrian transit subcommission of our municipal government. So this is my first time coming to one of these meetings, and I thought it would be interesting. So thank you guys for having me. I don't think Joe has gone yet.
Hi, I'm Joe Wachter. I live in Lake Zurich, Hawthorne Woods in the northwest suburb, and I work at Harper College in Palatine. So I ride to work and back along down Quentin Road most days. So interested in that area. Nice to meet y'all and see some of you again.
And Joe, do you want to pass it on to someone else? I can help you if you don't know who.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Sorry. Go ahead, Rahat.
Thank you, Joe. My name is Rahat Bari. I work for the city of Batavia, and I'm here, the city engineer for the city. We are actually on the implementation side of the plans that you folks make. So we adopted a bike and ped plan that was developed by the Active Transportation. So just tuning in to see what's new and what's coming our way. But as I said, I'm mostly in the implementation side of, putting in more sidewalk or striping bike lanes on streets, and implementing new bike for as an alternative mode of transportation for people. Thank you, and I will pass it on to, I think, Terry Witt.
Oh, Terry, you're muted. I see your video. There you are.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm over in Bartlett. I like to ride and find out what's going on and throw in my opinion, which I have many. So very, very happy to see that there's so many people interested in promoting bicycling. So I'm just hanging along, and I'm gonna figure out how to mute now.
Great. Thanks, Terry. Let's see who else. Well, Ralph, you haven't gone yet. Oh.
Yeah, hopefully my internet connection will be okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. All right, I'll make it quick. I'm the biking columnist for the Daily Herald. Been doing that for 3 years. I belong to the Bike Palatine Club and several other clubs in the area, and interested in learning what's going on in not just Chicago area, but in the state of Illinois.
Great, thanks, Ralph. And I think our last person is Nick.
How about Nick? Yeah.
I am the village planner for the village of Bensonville. Just joining to keep an eye on things and kind of try to keep my mind active in the bike space. As you know, we're always trying to incorporate bike paths, multi-use paths whenever we can.
Great, thanks. It's nice to have. We have lots of city and village representatives today, which is great. So thanks everyone for joining. Dave Simmons from Ride Illinois, he is normally on these bi-monthly calls, but he was unable to make it today. So I have a few updates from him just to kick things off. And then I have a handful of updates from the Active Transportation Alliance, and then we'll pass it over to all of you. If you have anything you wanted to share with the group, something going on in your community, if you have any questions, anything you wanted to brainstorm with the group, this is like the place to bring it. So, and while I'm speaking, feel free to stop me, ask any questions, raise your hand, and you can also utilize the chat if you wanted to share anything there or ask any questions. I'm not always the best at watching the chat though while I'm speaking, but I'll try to monitor it when I'm not. So to start off, so Ride Illinois updates. They have a campaign called I Can Bike There, which is all about, encouraging people to bike to everyday destinations. So you take a photo of yourself, put it on social media, tag I Can Bike There and Ride Illinois, and they're doing raffle prizes every month, and they have a bike themed calendar, 2024 calendar for October. That's the raffle prize. And I know Ralph, I know you said your internet might not be so stable right now, but your column, one of your upcoming Daily Herald columns is going to be about I Can Bike There. Is that right?
Yep, it's due today.
Okay, great. So we'll be on the lookout for that. And again, after all of these calls, I always put all of the links to anything that was mentioned by our organizations or any of you and send it out to everyone. So you'll have the links to I Can Bike There and everything else we talk about. And then Dave also wanted me to announce that. So they have a bike safety mini grant that is available, that is now available for the 2023-2024 school year. And if you haven't ever checked out their bike safety quiz, it's a great quiz that anyone can take, children or adults, and it asks a lot of really in-depth questions about bike safety, and they have a program where schools can sign up, and any student that takes the bike safety quiz, they get $2 for every student. So that's a very exciting program. So Dave asked to make sure to send that out to schools, teachers in your community so that the word can get spread about the bike safety quiz. And then he also said, so he's been working with the Illinois School Board of Education on safety bike walk curriculum that they're developing for the entire state. And they actually applied for a Safe Routes to School grant as a first step for developing this curriculum for Illinois schools. And that would be really exciting if they ended up getting the grant from IDOT. So that grant just wrapped up beginning of October, and announcements are expected in the spring, probably March 2024. So we'll keep you updated about, if they end up getting funding for school curriculum for the entire state. And then Dave also was mentioning, so they have an advocacy committee, and they are right now refining their legislative priorities for 2024. So we'll be sure to let you know what's kind of in line for next year and what bills will be, both of our organizations will be pushing. I know the e-bike incentive is one program that Ride Illinois has been working on, it, as well as Active Trans. And Active Trans, we're really focused on transit this year and making sure transit has funding in the future. And I'll talk about that in a moment, but we'll make sure to alert you all to whatever's bubbles up as what are our priorities for this year. And then we'll be asking for help, filling out action alerts or those witness slips, or, maybe perhaps testifying at in Springfield or virtually. But I'll keep you updated. So more to come on that. And then finally, Dave asked that, so they have a year-end membership appeal. So it's an open invitation for anyone to join Ride Illinois as a member. And Active Trans is also a membership-based organization. So we encourage you to become members of our organization. At Active Trans, we actually have our membership meeting, or it's a membership party that is going to be November 28th. And it's a happy hour, it's volunteer awards, it's an update on our work. And it's going to be at the Revolutionary Brewing Tap Room in Chicago. So we'd love to have you all there. I'll be there. Dave Simmons might be there too. But you're all invited. And then a few other updates now from Active Trans. So we've been working on a Chicago Trail webinar series. I'll start putting some links in the chat just so you have some links. So we've been doing this webinar series, and our fourth webinar is going to be next Thursday, and it's about West Suburban trails. It was, I think 2 months ago, it was about South Suburban trails. And there's the chat. So I'm just going to add, that's the registration to the West Suburban Trail webinar. So it's on Thursday at noon, and it'll be highlighting the East Branch DuPage River Trail, so that a lot of you know Ginger Wheeler, so she'll be speaking about the latest with that trail. It'll be about the Illinois Prairie Path and just the advocacy going on around some gaps in that trail, as well as just improving the trail, as well as the Great Western Trail. And then DuPage County has been working on a trails master plan. So Sid Kenyon, some of you know him, he'll be speaking about that plan, which it's actually open right now for public comment. So make sure to send out that link to all of you in the western suburbs. And then funding update. So RTA, our Regional Transit Authority, just announced a call for projects for their access to transit grant. So this helps communities improve bike and pedestrian infrastructure around transit stops. So that could be Metra, CTA, or PACE stops. It can be for construction, for phase 2 engineering. And in some cases, so they do have a phase 1 only application. It's a set aside that it's available for moderate to high need communities to apply for that, to fund the phase 1 engineering, which can be more difficult to fund, especially if you're a smaller community, if you don't have a large tax base to fund, to get a project started. So that grant, I'll put the link to that. Shoot, I don't know if I might have, not sure. Oh, there. Yeah, there's the link to the Access to Transit grant. That is due in December. So it just opened, I think, yesterday. And then, so 2 other things I wanted to update you on. One is the PART plan, the plan of action for regional transit. And the other was is the IDOT's active transportation plan and a memo that we worked on. So just want to update you on that. But so first, PART, so the plan of action for regional transit. David Poe, he's our director of planning. He came to our last meeting and spoke a bit more about PART more in depth. But if it's not on your radar, I just want to, or if it's like slightly on your radar, I just want to bring it up again so it's on your mind, because it's going to be something that we're really we're going to be focused on a lot next year, advocating for transit and making sure it keeps running. So basically the issue was that when COVID happened, this resulted in, people were working from home, people changed kind of where, when, how they travel, and ridership declined across our system. And that resulted in major revenue loss, which, so for the last, I guess, 3 years, transit has been receiving a lot of federal funding. So it's allowed our system to continue running, and which has been essential to our economy, Northeastern Illinois' economy. We're very dependent on our transit system. It's essential for a lot of people to access opportunities, for food, for work, for school, and it also helps us address climate change. So there's so many benefits that transit provides, and it still frightens me to think like what happens if we can't fund transit. But essentially, so CMAP or I guess back to the problem, there's the federal funding is going to be running out, and it will run out, I believe, by the end of 2025 or beginning of 2026. So we still have a couple more years, but right now we have to figure out how, after that, how do we deal with the budget gap that we're going to have. So they're predicting a $730 million annual budget gap without the federal funds, in order to return to pre-pandemic service levels. So CMAP, our regional metropolitan planning organization, they put a report together called the PART report. So the plan of action for regional transit. And the plan or the report outlines what do we want in our regional transit system, how do we pay for it, how do we close that funding gap, and how do we implement future improvements to our transit system. So the MPO, so CMAP sent this report to Springfield, to our legislative system. So now a General Assembly is going to be looking at this report and figuring out what kind of action are we going to be taking. So likely there will be some legislative action taking place in 2024. Will be right now. So we're going to be meeting with different senators, state representatives who are champions of active transportation in the next coming weeks. And we'll just be kind of trying to figure out what our next steps And we're going to be hosting a briefing at the state capitol about the report, about kind of the issue. If anyone's curious, I'll link it here. There's the final report is online, the part report. It's like 100+ pages long, so I don't expect everyone to be reading it, but you can have a look and look at the intro at least to get more details about, you know, what they're envisioning. So in any case, more to come on this as well, but just want to kind of keep this on your radar because it's going to be much talked about. And I believe there was an article in the Daily Herald a couple days ago about this and kind of the reactions from different elected officials and leaders. I'll send that out in the follow-up email as well, so you can have a look. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about before we turn it over to all of you is IDOT's active transportation plan. So their active transportation plan, you know, is in the works right now. They're still collecting public feedback. So it's, they've got a survey, they've got an online map of the entire state, and you can mark up, you know, issues that you might have or things you'd like to see around the state in your community. So that survey and map is wrapping up at the end of this month. So you have a couple more weeks to provide any additional feedback to IDOT. And then additionally, so we had over the years, we've been talking to different municipalities, different engineering firms, talking to all of you about just what are the issues communities face in actually implementing walking and biking projects. And based on what we were hearing and different ideas we were getting, we've created this memo, this letter of like 20+ policy and program ideas for IDOT to consider and for IDOT to potentially incorporate into their active transportation plan. And so I've been emailing about this over the last month or so. So thank you. So I know you probably got too many emails from me about it, but we had 69 organizations and municipalities sign on to the letter. And it was with like a wide array of groups. It was, you know, it was actual municipalities signing on in support. It was public health groups. It was community-based organizations. It was some groups that I had never heard of that were, you know, really interested in this and interested in walking and biking in our region and around the state. So I have the letter, the final letter that was sent. I'll link it here if you're curious to look at it. And so there's like in the letter, there's like ideas around funding and staffing and education, speed limits, maintenance, street design. So lots of different topics, and examples from what other states have done that seem to be working. So I just actually heard back from IDOT yesterday, about the letter. I sent it to them end of September. And they were very happy, like, or their reaction was they were excited that so many groups were weighed in, and they appreciated all the ideas. So it was a good initial reaction, I think, from IDOT, and we'll see if they have any questions. But the plan. So if you didn't get a chance to review the letter and sign on, we can still add you to the letter. So if you do want to be added on to that memo, feel free to email me and I can add your organization. But the plan with the active transportation plan is, I believe it's sometime this winter, there's going to be some in-person meetings that IDOT is going to hold in every district. So there are 9 districts around Illinois. We're in District 1 in the Chicagoland region. So there will be an in-person meeting to provide comments and feedback, to have discussions. And then later on in 2024, I'm guessing the spring, the timeline has been shifting a little bit, so it's hard to say, but in the spring, it sounds like they might share a draft report so we can actually react to it. And And okay, Rolf asked, is there a point person with IDOT regarding the active transportation plan? And yes, it's they do have an email that's oh yeah, it might be a good topic for future bike column. So that it's there's a general email that I think goes to the project team for the active transportation plan. So it goes to IDOT staff as well as the Alta Planning, which is the consulting firm for the plan. But Leanne Prather is kind of my main contact for the plan, and she would probably be happy to talk to you, Rolf, and help get the word out more about what's going on and what the possibilities are. But I think they're hoping to wrap up the plan summer of 2024. And the last time a plan like this, well, this is the first time there's an active transportation plan. In 2014, there was a bike plan for the state. So this is a plan that is encompassing walking and biking and rolling. So, yeah, perfect. So that is all for me. So I will wanted to open the floor up to all of you. If you have any comments about anything that I just shared, anything going on in your communities, that we'd love to hear. So feel free, you can raise your hand with the little raise hand button. And I think I see it. Oh yeah, Ralph.
Yeah, so has Active Trans taken a position on the CMAP options? I think the biggest one is the combining of all the regional entities into a single one. That's what I've read.
Yeah, no, that's yes. So I think we're very much in support. Amy, our executive director, was on the committee to help create this report. So yeah, as Rolf was mentioning, one of the recommendations is for CTA, PACE, and Metra to all be part of one kind of group instead of having separate boards for each, to bring them together so that there's more coordination regionally. And I think this is probably the biggest part of the debate on whether I think the service boards would rather not be joined together, but we feel like it'll be a more efficient way to run the whole system. Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out in Springfield and just with reactions from different bodies. Does that answer your question, Ralph? Yeah. And Joe, see your hand is.
I had a question. I think something that might work well in my area is this idea of connecting neighborhoods with small paths rather than focusing on the big roads. And I remember there was somebody here talking about that a couple of years ago. Maybe Woodstock area. Does anybody know who I'm talking about? Maybe I have that wrong, but they did some projects where they were able to put in some of these paths. Mm-hmm. And I don't know anything about how that works. If it's like, if you can incentivize property owners to do that, or you just kind of do the tactical urbanist thing and sort of just put paths in without asking anybody and hope they don't get rid of them. Has anybody worked on those types of projects, or do you know who I could talk to about that?
Does anyone have any thoughts about that? Rahat, are you still on? Like, does Batavia ever have anything like that to connect neighborhoods?
We really don't have anything like that in Batavia to connect neighborhoods.
There was somebody who's a full-time bike commuter in the suburbs out here somewhere who used to be on some of these meetings. I can't remember who it was or where they were.
Yeah.
They did like something similar to this where he literally just like went and talked to people and said, hey, can we put in a gravel thing? And the park district agreed to maintain it. And
I kind of
kind of thing.
If that was Eberhart.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
From Crystal Lake in McHenry County. I can give you his contact. He's part of McHenry County Bicycle Advocates group.
Okay.
And
thanks.
we did a webinar with him where he kind of talked about one of those trail projects that
Yeah,
he
I think I was at that, and that's where I remembered,
Yeah.
but I couldn't remember who
Yeah.
it
So
was.
that's I can give you his contact. Another thing that comes to mind, and if anyone else has any ideas, feel free to chime in, but another place is Lisle, the village of Lisle. We did a bike pedestrian plan with them right before the pandemic. So I think it was 2019. And they have a lot of, like, they have neighborhoods that just kind of, dead end, like once you go in the neighborhood, but then they have a lot of paths in between. And I believe they would try to buy property when it was up for sale, or buy like maybe an easement between the land or between properties, and then put in these connections. And it's such a cool system. Like it was, I'm sure I have a contact there that I could also pass along to you. I just have to dig around a little bit. But they might have some advice on how to go about doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any experience with that, or know of an example of a community at least that has those like connections between neighborhoods? Yeah, it's a great idea. Like I'm glad you're bringing it up, because it really it helps, people then can just really take local roads. They don't have to jump onto an arterial to get between places, or they can like easily connect to a school. It's
Well, Maggie, in Palatine, we have the Park District has been active in putting up its trails and connecting it to various destinations in the city, schools, libraries. Of course, we have a big Commonwealth Edison tower system that runs east and west through Palatine. So they have easements, and that's where some of the trail follows, is along those types of towers. But it's off main roads, and it's behind neighborhoods and following creeks and things like that. So it gets a lot of use.
Yeah.
So a park district might be another source for contacting, and they would have funding sources as well.
Yeah, good point. Okay, I'm just writing a note. Eberhart and Village of Lisle. Okay. And we can also put a call out when I send out an email. I can just highlight a question like, does anyone know of any other examples like this? And someone that might we can put you in touch with. All right. Oh, Terry, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, a couple things going on in Bartlett, and this might help with neighborhood connections. For one thing, any developer who wants to develop any kind of property, business, housing, they are required to put in bike paths. So right up front, they've got to put a bike path in. But the other thing, the main thing is just last year, Bartlett through CMAP, who Maggie's been talking about, they funded a professional engineering company to come in and create a bike plan for Bartlett and Streamwood combined. So I would recommend, whether it's through CMAP or Active Trans, create a bike plan. Because the one thing about the bike plan is, once you've got a plan, your ability to influence the people that are giving out grants increases. Because the people who give out grants, they want you to spend money. So they look for the people who have something that they want to do to give the money to. And so it's a win-win if you have a bike plan. And so we've now got a bike plan, and it's also given the village more incentive to start repaving a bunch of trails that we have had for a long time that are getting kind of old. So there's a lot of excitement about it, so much so that the village applied to become a bicycle-friendly community with the League of American Bicyclists, which I would also recommend every village do. You don't always get selected, but you always get feedback from them as to, okay, well, here's something that you can do to move yourself a little bit closer to being in that category where you can become a bicycle friendly community. So they give a lot of information out there.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah. So I would invite anybody to come to Bartlett for a bike ride. We are an oasis in the northwest corner of the region. You can reach us through the Prairie Path, through the North Central DuPage Regional Trail, through the West Branch Trail. You can get to us from the Fox River Trail. And if you're near Metro, we're on the Milwaukee West. We're just an hour and 5 minutes from downtown Chicago on the Milwaukee West. So there's lots of ways to reach Bartlett. And the one thing I can tell you is when you get here, we got so many restaurants, small little restaurants run by local people. Hey, you get a great meal and then you're all ready to finish your ride back to where you came from. So it's a good place to ride to. So
yeah, maybe they can meet you for coffee or tea, Terry.
Well, if you're here on Wednesday morning at 9:30, meet us over at Spin Doctor Cycle Works. We have a ride called Coffee on Bikes with Old People, where we go 8 to 12 miles.
Nice.
And then we stop for coffee at one of the local places, which is generally been noted on I Can Bike There.
Very nice.
Every ride in Bartlett's about 3 miles long, so it's real easy to get around. So anyway,
yeah, no, thanks, Terry. I think you brought up two good reminders. One is that local technical assistance program that CMAP can help fund active transportation plan in your community. And I've heard, Ralph, you did an article about this actually, right? This is one of your latest articles all about the latest plans in our region.
Yeah. And it looks like there's plenty more coming down the pike. In fact, for my last column in December, I'll do sort of a wrap up because some of the plans were finished but not adopted yet by their municipality. So hopefully by December we'll be able to get a full listing of what happened in 2023.
Yeah, great. It's exciting to see so many plans kind of bubbling up around our region. And I would say that local technical assistance program is a great resource for funding a plan. And I've heard, I think their next call for proposals will be in 2024. And I've heard that it can help if you partner with a neighboring community, kind of like how Bartlett and Streamwood partnered together. So when you're like talking with your neighbor, because I think often, sometimes we have these plans and then you forget about that you're connecting to your surrounding neighbors. I think that's what CMAP is looking for, or you'll get more points if you work with your neighbor. So just a tip if you're looking to apply to that program, if your community is. And then also, Terry, you mentioned the Bike Friendly Communities program. And I've heard it's a really great advocacy tool actually for just getting your elected officials kind of more in the know about all the best practices around how to become a friendlier place for bicycles. And they give you a lot of resources and ideas, and they also do a lot of engagement. Like I've heard Abby Beck, she's an alderwoman from Batavia, talking about I think she started that process for Batavia, and it was just a really great way to build champions and get more people excited about the idea of becoming a more friendly place for biking.
If I could put in one more pitch,
Mhm.
the DuPage, you mentioned the DuPage plan, it just came out and they want suggestions. So suggest they run the trail right to your town.
Yeah.
You know, don't let them off the hook. Say, come to my town. I mean, it's the best way to increase travelers. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of trail travelers all over our region. They're riding and riding and riding. And I keep telling Bartlett, connect to the trails. We're a population of 40,000. We've got 4 trails running right beside us that could double our population. And I tell the restaurants, that's double the hamburgers you got to order, double the hot dogs, the tacos, the egg rolls, all those things. They're right there on a trail system. So tell DuPage County, bring that trail right to downtown where you live.
And actually,
Anyway.
if you need help making the case for trails, like if you're like, oh, like we could really use a trail connection, or just like extending a trail to your community, we have a PowerPoint that you could use with a bunch of kind of there's been a lot of studies on the benefits of trails and just different factoids, and so we have this PowerPoint that you could use if you want, if you wanted to present to, you know, some leader in your community about like why your community should invest in trails and the many benefits it can bring. So, and I think Terry, you're a great spokesperson for trails in our region. So, and then it looks like I just saw in the chat, Ben Harris. So Skokie just got recognized by the league as a bike friendly community. It's great. And then what is it? The Swamp Rabbit Trail has put Greenville, South Carolina on the map. Good trail to mimic in our area. And she says she's getting lots of ideas from you, Terry. So yeah, no, great. Thanks for, I'll have to check out the Swamp Rabbit Trail. I think I've heard the Illinois Prairie Path is one of like the biggest economic contributors to Northeastern Illinois. Just it brings in a lot of people. Great. Well, anything else anyone wanted to share? Anyone, any questions?
Well, I'll throw out one more promotion. I do 2 Facebook groups. One is called Trails Linking Communities. And I share posts from around the world on things that are happening in the bicycling world, because there's a lot of cool things going on in Europe and Asia and across the United States. So I'm just a little crazy. That's all. So you know, I'm getting a bunch of messages. I'm Trails Linking Communities, Facebook, and also I do Walk Bike Bartlett. And I know there's a bunch of walk bike programs because we had a meeting with Active Trains when we could do in-person meetings, and you, Maggie, you started the bike walk concept of stuff. So I said, oh, well, okay, bike walk Bartlett. But I know there's one in Brookfield has a one, and
yeah, no, we actually
Oak Park and Evanston, and
they're
all over.
Yeah, we were actually talking about internally here about for in 2024 doing another in-person gathering.
Yes.
Yes. I know it's been a while since we've done that. I guess it was, did we do it in 2019? But you know, we had some in-person gatherings to kind of talk about the Bike Walk Every Town curriculum, which is like how to build your own advocacy campaign in your community if you don't have one. And then also just bring everyone together, whether you have a campaign or not, just to kind of share ideas. And then we maybe had some other topics that we were focused on, whether it was a training or just sharing. But it's something that is that we're thinking about, and keep you updated for something in 2024. And Brad, I see your hand is raised.
There, I'm unmuted. Sorry. I don't have a lot of big updates, but just a few updates from my side. We are continuing to work our bike activities in Park Ridge. We are getting budgeting in next year's budget now for putting more sharrows on the roads, which is great. We kind of got shut down on some efforts to put up some flashing beacon crossings. Seems like our city engineering is really hesitant about that, so that's kind of letting that lie for now, but I just mentioned it here. If anybody sees any articles or studies about benefits or issues with those, or, you know, good or bad, I mean, we're trying to learn, right? In particular, they're really definitely against any beacon crossings without room for a center island on a 4-lane road. They think that's risky. So just a whole discussion we've been having, and it's good stuff. So instead, we're trying to marshal some of the resources we have been pushing towards that, to think about connections to the Des Plaines Trail. Now that they've done the new Des Plaines Trail upgrades, they have some things where they're bringing out to crosswalk crossings where they used to go under some main roads, and those crossings are very close to our community. So I'm trying to work with the Forest Reserve District to see if we can get some connecting paths put in. So that's something interesting and new that we're working on. And we have done a series of community bike rides this year. I would consider it a success. It's been pretty low key because I'm the main person driving it all and I have limited resources, but I think I've learned some things that if I do a little more marketing and social media, maybe for next year, and maybe put them on a regular cadence so people kind of know when they are and so forth, I think we could get some momentum around this, and we're excited about that. I think it's great to increase visibility of bikers in our communities, just like you guys all are doing, I'm sure. So that's about all my updates, but just wanted to share a few things that we are trying to keep things moving forward out here in Park Ridge.
Great, thanks, Brad. You're doing great work out there, and I know, yeah, that if anyone has any thoughts about the flashing beacons, whether they work, don't work in your community, feel free to share, and we can also do another call out and an email blast. So, and Terry, did you have?
Yeah, flashing beacons. I know I put a bunch of posts out there on Trails Linking Communities about that, Brad. And DuPage County just had a big island put in the middle of a 4-lane county farm road on the Great Western Crossing, which doesn't have a flashing beacon, but it does have notices and things, and it took a long time, but they got it through. But there's a lot of 2-lane roads, that have the flashing beacons. I know we've got one in Bartlett, and I'm trying to get 3 more, but they're much better on 2 lanes. 4 lanes, and cars get invisible, and that's the biggest complaint, you know. So that's a tough sell. It's almost like you need a stop.
Yeah, that's where the 4-lane came up, because we do have a busy road going through our town. It's actually a piece of Northwest Highway, which for those of you who know the area, that's a pretty highly trafficked road, and near a park and a school, and there's a crossing there that people take routinely, but there's no signal there, like you said, and that's the big question. Do they need a signal? Because, you know, we all know this as bike advocates. The problem is the government can do something or choose to ignore it, but the people are going to cross either way, and it's just a matter of, is it a ticking time bomb, right? So in fairness to the community, I don't mean to say that as anything negative towards my community. They're trying to look at all the alternatives, all the solutions, but it's just, there's not, to your point, not an easy solution on a road like that. It's a busy road. It has an unsignalized crosswalk currently. And of course, like many of these roads, the other nuance is that at some times of day, it's very busy. Other times of day, not so much. So that's part of it too, is do you have a signal then at some point that just flashes yellow at sometimes and is red at other times? So there's a lot to it, but yeah, anybody that has ideas or suggestions, always interested to talk, for sure.
And there's no room for an island, right? Like that's, or like any type of bump outs.
Well, that's, Terry started talking about islands. That's part of the trick here, is that I have asked, and I have not gotten much response on other roads about, can you expand to each side, by eminent domain a little bit into parkway easements or something, and take some land to make the island, but I haven't really gotten much positive traction on that. So my impression is, when you're landlocked, to your point, if you're out in somewhere in the west suburbs and you have a lot of land in a new development or something, you could just allow for that island, but we don't have that good fortune here, I don't think.
What would be nice to see, I haven't seen it much around here, but I know it's gaining popularity in Europe, are the retractable bollards for crossings like that, where you push a button, bollards come up from the street.
Oh, that's
any
very
car that tries to
interesting.
cross
Literally
just
block traffic.
Oh yeah, even if a car tries to just like barely make it, there's great videos online of cars just getting destroyed by these things because they're trying to, get into the crosswalk. But those kinds of things, because I feel like flashing lights are flashing lights. Like, it would be great if you could just block traffic, and that's what these things do. Like, just stop cars from getting into the crosswalk.
I think, in fairness to the administrators in all the cities, right, I think this is one of the big concerns is, if you put up flashing lights and they don't work, then, you've very deliberately engaged in that intersection, you're almost like more liable at that point, right? So you got to really lay these things out right. In other words, they don't want to do anything with signage or flashing beacons or anything that make it worse instead of better. And I certainly understand that, right? Or give people false security to cross, but at some point you got to do something, build a bridge. I don't know.
Yeah, especially if it's right by a school, you said, right? A school in a park.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, have they thought about like they slow the speed limit down in that area, or is it a local?
Yeah, they've done a lot of things with signage, really warning people, and I don't think the speed limit's super high. I got to review that again. If it's, it's probably 30, or it's no more than 40 for sure, but I'm guessing it's like 30. It's not probably 20 though, but it is, times a day when the school's not going, it's a very busy road. Like in rush hour, they probably wouldn't want it to be 20 or something like that. It would be probably considered a road, an impediment at that point. So that's all part of it, right?
And like a speed limit alone wouldn't help also, like it's still like.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I tend to think of these things from kind of people proofing things, right? Bridges under the road or over the road are ideal in some ways, right? But then you got to put up blockades, like you guys were saying, so people don't cross anyway. But I mean, some way that people can't just wander out there anyway in the wrong situation, or cars can't just come through on the flasher. You really need to think about that.
Yeah.
So we don't have to solve it here today, but I appreciate the discussion, and just want to throw it out there always for people, you guys are a good group for brainstorming things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great. And Terry, did you have anything else, or was that a leftover hand? Okay, yeah. And then I just looking at the comments. Oh, Elizabeth is saying she's had some interesting conversations about bollards and their ineffectiveness, especially the ones on forest preserve trails that are more often hazards for bicyclists, whether up or down. Huh. All right. Anything else anyone wanted to bring up, or can also wrap up early? All right. Well, thank you all for joining today. Our next call is December 13th. So I'll make sure to send out email reminders about that. And then for the new year, in January and beyond, we'll come up with some new dates. But part of me is thinking, like, I feel like the lunchtime works for a lot of people, especially when I make sure to promote it. And I don't think I did the best job promoting this time, but I'm going to talk to Dave about maybe doing a couple, maybe evening meetings as well for those that, if lunchtime isn't ideal, just so we have a variety of options for people. But of course we always record these, so we can always catch up later. But thank you all again for joining. It was nice to see you all, and I will send out a follow-up email soon. So hope you all have a good rest of your week, and yeah, see you again in a couple months.
Thanks, Maggie.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.